Hedge formation. A hedge is a row of plants that have been trained to grow together. Hedges can be formal or informal. Formal hedges are often sheared, tight, and squared off. Informal hedges are typically not sheared, or at least not sheared as tightly, and retain a more natural appearance. In this training, we will focus on how to maintain formal hedges. A hedge is not a particular plant species, and in fact any plant species can be hedged. However, and like we talked about in the general training, we strongly recommend avoiding shearing plants with large leaves because the damage to the leaves is unsightly, and we strongly recommend avoiding shearing plants with large internodes because shearing them typically leaves a stub. Like successful pruning, a successful hedge begins with appropriate landscape design, again based on an understanding of plant genetic behavior. At BYU, our hedges tend to be more successful when we select plants that have small leaves, have small internodes, and are sunlight tolerant. Appropriate species might include species like common privet, pyracantha, boxwood, etc. Our hedges also tend to be more successful when we plant them in areas that get enough sun on all sides. Anything that blocks that sunlight, whether it's a building, a tree, etc., will likely keep the hedge from filling in completely. We have also found that a hedge that is east-west facing will fill in better than a north-south facing hedge. To shear a formal hedge, we will cut back almost to the beginning of the previous year's growth to allow sunlight to reach it. We shear the tops of our hedges so that they are level and quote-unquote roll with the height of the plant bed. Where possible, we slope the sides of our hedges so that the bottom portion of the hedge is slightly wider than the top portion of the hedge. Doing so will allow more sunlight to reach the sides of the hedge. On the other hand, if the top is wider than the bottom will become shaded, and over time, the shaded portion will likely die out and leave gaps in the hedge. If it is not possible to slope the sides of our hedges, at a minimum the sides of our hedges should be in bounds and perpendicular to the top of the hedge. This is the end of the hedge formation segment of our training video. We realize that when it comes to hedging, there's a lot of room for personal preference, and consideration needs to be given to other factors such as the climate, etc. But we hope that this training will give you a better idea of how we prune plants with a hedge formation at BYU.